Welcome to the Betfred Boxing Show with myself, Dom McGuinness, alongside Anthony $1 Million Crolla. And as ever, Anthony, we're going to look back to all the action that we've watched last weekend. We're going to preview all the stuff coming up this weekend. We're going to hear from Liam Williams, who's got a heck of a job on his hands, but a very confident Liam Williams. We're going to be hearing from your camp, your stable, Natasha Jonas. She's got the fight coming up in a couple of weeks against Katie Taylor, of course, and also Marcus Morrison. We're going to hear from him. He's got some mission as well against Chris Eubank Jr., but an interesting story involving those two. And, of course, the standout performer, arguably anyway, I think it's a great argument, Savannah Marshall, what she did last weekend, absolutely fantastic. We're going to hear from Savannah as well. We're going to be joined by her, so fantastic to catch up with her and see what she fancies next, and I think we might have an idea what that could be. But we will start with the man that was headlining, obviously, at the Matchroom show last weekend, Conor Benn.
Yes.
We expected Conor, who's been improving greatly, to put on a show, but nobody expected that, Anthony.
No, we've got to be honest, that was a fantastic win. I think the safe bet in almost everyone's eyes was Conor to win on points with a few questions asked, but he just jumped on Vargas from the start and he looked so sharp and hit him very hard. And we say it all the time, he's improving at an alarming rate, just all the time he's improving, and he keeps doing it. We might see him fight for world titles. Listen, I think a little bit of the talk after it got a little bit crazy, but it was a fantastic performance and credit where credit's due.
On that, again, if you're going to play devil's advocate to the performance, because it was incredibly eye-catching, was Vargas caught a bit cold? Did he take him lightly?
Yeah.
Was there some way that you can make some kind of compensation for his performance?
Well, you can, but he knows, like Conor, like you say, he can be a fast starter. We know he's heavy-handed, so he should have been switched on. He'll have the argument it was premature, and people, you know, it would be a fair argument, but it's certainly better too early than too late. But Conor was hurting him, and he looked so sharp, and I think even if it was a touch from him, I believe he would have got him out of there later in the round. He come out, like say, like a man possessed. There was just shades of his dad, but it was controlled as well, very spiteful. I just think now it's going to be interesting to see what the next step is. Do you know, it's divided opinion a lot. Some people saying he's surpassed British title class. Some others saying, how can you say that? He's not beat anyone at British title class. Because Samuel Vargas, it was more about who he'd been in with. But again, credit where it's due, and he's becoming a star. Everyone was talking about Conor Benn, and there's, I know it gets its nuts, but I think he has got the potential to turn in to a big few star if done right. But I think, like you say, the next few matchups have got to be very careful.
Yeah, I mean, he said himself, and it has been spoken about, that the numbers he generates are very, very good. You know, he is an attraction, whatever you think of his definitely developing skills. I think if he can just kind of relax in an interview and speak his mind, maybe that's the next stage.
Eddie looked terrified, didn't he? I think he actually said he scares him to death. Yeah, I mean, you know what? He was charged in that interview, so charged. And I think with him as well, the adrenaline's pumping. He was ready to call out anyone. He wanted Crawford or Spence next. It was mad.
I think the cameras would have kept rolling for about an hour and a half. I mean, it was like they were just focused on him, and it was just so... I mean, fair play to him, though. I mean, obviously, as you say, he's charged and he's excited.
Of course,
and it's
career
all
best
come together.
performance, and it was a statement. No matter what you say, that was a massive statement.
Yeah. So, what would you like to see next? The $1 million question. Because, I mean, again, firstly address the kind of Amir Khan chat. You know Amir very, very well.
Yeah.
Again, from the gym that you've been training in all these years, but you know him anyway from the scene.
I was, of course. Listen, I wasn't a massive fan of that, knowing Amir and stuff like that. I don't know what Amir's going to do. But I think he's at the point in that stage, Amir, where if it makes business sense, right, he'll do it. And I think, you know, on paper, he'd be very, very confident. If he's got a bit left, he'll have too much for Conor, because you've got to remember the inexperience, as good as he was, the inexperience that Conor has, he's still learning. He probably could have done with some rounds Saturday night, but like I'm certainly no way that you'd rumble at the first round stoppage. But I think for me, we've got a good British Euro level fight. I think, you know, forget about Amir and Kell Brook. Conor's coming on at a great rate. I think he needs some rounds. Still questions that he wants asking, and what he'll answer, he brought along at the right rate. I say it all the time, Tony Sims doing an amazing job there. Listen, the talk of Sean Porter, that was mental talk, like, in my opinion. But he's right there, he's moving on to, like, fringe world title, sort of, you know, top 10s, top 15. I think now, for me, I'd love to see him get a good 10, 12 rounds in, some good, whether it be good South America, but bring him on at the right rate. Everyone loves him. Like you say, the numbers he does, just keep doing them, just let him learn still. Like you say, he's still inexperienced. And that, like you say, on Saturday, as good as it was, it's also now people want to know, after the names that was mentioned, they want a big name next.
But you've said it in that very chair many a time. You rarely see a bad British title fight. You know, domestically as well. When you look at some of the matchups that he could get on, I understand it's a risk and reward thing.
Of course.
And where he is, and it's the unbeaten record. But I've heard Conor himself say, look, there will be blips, and it's how I come back. And so then why not take a McKinson or an Avanesian?
Of course.
And that's British or European. That would be fantastic, wouldn't it?
Yeah, listen, they're massive fights. And I'll be honest, like, with McKinson, I know him well, know his father well, and they love that fight, but then from Conor Benn, McKinson, very awkward, hard to land on. Does that become a frustrating night? But even if the opponents, I know before it was talks with Josh Keller, he'd love that fight. But then Conor now and his team might have the attitude, well, do we really need him? But as for fights, you know, in the welterweight division, there's some amazing fights to be made, yeah. But I think, like you say, it's just which route they're going to go with Conor. And I think, like you say, and as much as he wants to be let off the leash, just number one or two learning. By learning fights, I mean good opponents, but you know, getting a good 10, 12 rounds under his belt.
There was a world title fight as well, that a much talked about one in the build-up between, obviously, Shannon, Courtenay and Ebony Bridges, bantamweight. Now, obviously, the two novice fighters, there's a bit of controversy about them fighting for a world title at this stage of the career, but from the two women's point of view, of course, they're going to take whatever opportunity they can, and good luck to the pair of them. And they put on a fierce battle. I mean, with all the chat, and again, with Bridges and the way she was approaching fight week and the lingerie and all of that, and Shannon Courtenay, there's a lot of back and forth, but wow.
Do you know what? First of all, Ebony Bridges went right up in my estimation, you know, that night, because he said, and I think, you know, I can hold my hands up, and I didn't know really how good she was. I didn't know it was a bit of a novelty, but I can hold my hands up and say,
I don't think anybody really did, though, did they?
I've got it completely wrong, because listen, a boxing can improve, but the sort of the desire, the ambition she's shown in there, it was like, wow. And that eye, as you've seen, it was a terrible injury. And for me, I think the scorecards was a little wide, but Shannon Courtenay, she won those championship rounds. But listen, Ebony's camp would argue it was down to the eye. It was down to the eye. She couldn't see what was coming. But then again, let's give Shannon Courtenay some credit. She was the champion. She's the new world champion. Yeah. She's come back from the Rachel Ball defeat. She's adjusted, and like I say, she finished strong, and she was a deserved winner. And now, listen, I'd love to see that again, whether it be a fight or two down the line. It'd be nice to see Rachel Ball get have the rematch, get her chance. But then Ebony Bridges, I really think she's got a big future in the sport. The three of them, like I say, I believe the three of them, Shannon Courtenay, Rachel Ball, and Ebony Bridges, we couldn't see a nice little round robin.
Yeah, and the thing, because of that eye damage, she could have easily taken a way out, and she was having none of that.
That's it, and physically very strong. I didn't know she was into like the bodybuilding and stuff like that, so you can see that's where the strength comes from. But there's so many adjustments that can be made to make her a genuine, like, a real threat to anyone. Well, she proved that on Saturday night, but to anyone in the division. But like I say, let's give credit, you know, Shannon Courtenay as well. She dug deep. She got a feel-good story about, you know, she turned her life around. Yeah. So that's a great win for her, and, you know, well done to her as well.
And there was some performance from a world champion who everybody that's followed her career has always said, what a boxer she is.
Yes.
What a fight, but what a boxer, Savannah Marshall. And again, that performance, and whether it's Peter Fury's fine-tuning, but she was a great amateur, a great part of the Team GB setup, and again, watching her spar back then, she was something to behold. Yeah. She's just fantastic, Savannah, isn't she?
I'm a big Savannah Marshall fan. Lovely skills. I think Peter Fury's doing a great job with her, and there she is now. But I just believe how relaxed she looks in there, and she's just, I think, starting off as a professional. It just took her a few fights to find her way, but she's just improving at a massive rate, just so relaxed, very heavy-handed, as we see in. And I just see her getting better and better, I really do.
We are going to speak to Savannah, but before, again, your opinion on this Clarissa Shields fight, because of course Savannah's the only person to have ever beaten Clarissa in either amateur or pro code. She was only 17 at the time, Shields, and she'll have a lot to say, as she tends to. But from Savannah's point of view, and is that fight, does it have to be next? I mean, where else do you go with it? I understand that promoters need to build But
does it have to be next? It doesn't have to be next. Would we like it to be next as boxing fans? Of course we would. I think I've seen today Clarissa as she's going to make her MMA debut in the PFL, which Savannah picked up on in the interview, in the post-fight interview. But I think later this year it would be great to see. So it'd be good to see Savannah out again, build it even more, and then we see it later in the year, because I think June or July, Clarissa's going to fight in the cage, in the octagon. It'll give it time to build, but I don't know how much more it sort of needs building. But it's great. Listen, it's great the way the fight's building up. I say all the time, the women's game is growing and growing, and that's like the biggest fight out there.
So Savannah Marshall, what a performance. So what is next for Savannah? Again, a great amateur, now a peerless pro, or is she? Is it Clarissa Shields? Well, myself and Anthony, we caught up with Savannah. Well, Savannah, thanks for finding time to talk to us. Firstly, fantastic performance, a standout performance. How do you assess your own performance against Lindberg?
Look, for me, I think I was just grateful to get out. Obviously, the week before, Famike had pulled out with two of her teammates testing positive for COVID. I think they must have just been ready to fly, and then they'd had the results back, and obviously they had COVID. So, to be honest, I thought, look, I'm not going to get out here. We were going to get at such short notice. But obviously, Maria had stepped in, and you could only fight what's put in front of you. To be honest, before the fight, I remember watching her and thinking, God, I'm in for a bit of a tough night here. She's going to be here all night. And I didn't expect it to go the way it did, to be honest. But I felt like as soon as I found my jab and found my range, I think, obviously, power-wise, I was a bit too much for her.
Savannah, I know that you just mentioned then Maria stepping in at late notice, and fair play to her. Stylistically, how different was the two opponents? I know it looked very comfortable on the night. You adjusted very well, but did you have to do much adjusting?
Yeah, 100%. So Famike is a back foot boxer, really unorthodox, keeps out the way. She reminds me a little bit of when Katie Taylor boxed Delphine Pursoon.
Yes.
That kind of like, well, I don't want to say novice, because obviously she's not a novice, but that kind of style, but on the back foot.
And unsure what she's going to do next, and
unpredictable. So obviously I had 4 or 5 weeks training for that coming forward, and then Maria was more of a come forward inside boxer. So when they offered me her, I was a bit, it's totally different. But once I'd calmed down, and I thought, well, yeah, look, it is what it is. You just got to adjust and crack on. But it did throw me off a little bit, obviously, because I'd been training for weeks on end for Famike.
Savannah, it was an interesting bill, and I think it's fair to say that the women again kind of stole the show. I mean, Conor Benn put in a great performance in taking out Vargas so quickly, but the world title fight before you came on with Bridges, who was challenging Courtenay, and again, it was a great spectacle. And then you did what you did, which was incredibly impressive. That performance, such a controlled performance. It's all going the right way, it feels. Is that the way you feel?
Yeah, 100%. I obviously I didn't get to see that fight till I got home, but I thought it was brilliant. And it definitely lived up to the build-up, because there was times when I thought, this is going to be a flop if it doesn't pay off the way they've built it up. But it was brilliant, absolutely brilliant fight. And I'd probably give Courtney 6 rounds to 4. I think it was a lot closer than what the scorecards said, but it was a brilliant fight. And one, to be on the same card as that, it was crazy.
Well, Savannah, I think we both scored it the same. But now, sort of going forward, I know we're going to get onto the obvious question in a minute, but you're seeing these big nights. How much does that want you, to box local, because your fan base is growing massively? How much is it for you? Is it a big thing for you to box local and sell out a little arena near you, or are you just thinking, no, I want to get overseas? how important is it to you to sort of box sort of local in front of your own fans first?
Well, I get asked all the time about boxing in America, but people forget my debut was in America.
It's over there. Yes.
So I've kind of did the whole America thing, so it isn't as appealing as what it might be to other people. But no, at the minute I'm hoping to jump on the Ritson bill back end of June, early July, because obviously it's my home city, and since I won the belt, there's been no crowds, so I haven't been able to show off.
Do you have any ties to the football, Savannah? Do you have any ties to the football?
I did when I was younger. Newcastle, obviously.
Yeah.
But even Ritson's massive up there.
Huge.
And I've only boxed on there once, and I think I was maybe 3 fights before Ritson, and the response was just crazy. I've never seen or felt anything like it.
You mentioned you're fighting in the States before, and as you say, I think people have forgotten the fact you were signed to Floyd Mayweather and the money team. It was some entrance to the pro game, really. So again, when we are talking, and I don't even want to mention the name, Anthony's touched upon it, but you've been in front of an American crowd before. It isn't, as you say, something new for when the big one happens.
Yeah, like I said, every British boxer's dream is to box in the States, isn't it? But like I said, I've already done it, so it's not as appealing as what it would be to other people. But look, if it demands more money or it's a bigger opportunity for me, of course I'm going to take it. But there's no better feeling than boxing in front of your family and friends, your home crowd.
You might know a bit about that, Anthony.
Just a bit, once or twice. I'll tell you what though, Savannah, I don't know, hopefully you won't be as stupid as me, and you'll have someone who look after the stress of tickets, but now obviously the fan base is growing massively, so that's something that I think, you will have to do. Is it, have you noticed the difference, Savannah? I know like the Olympian, so, but obviously your profile is going through the roof. Have you noticed that when you're back home? I know like things aren't up and running as of such, but have you noticed that when you've been out and about a little bit?
Yeah, 100%. I was out on the promenade the other day on my bike, and people are just shouting, "Well done!" I'm turning my neck, nearly falling off my bike. But yeah, it's lovely. It's honestly, it's a surreal feeling.
We may as well just throw it in there now. Get it out of the way. Clarissa Shields. It's a name you're not going to escape. And again, it's right that you want to do what you want to do in the Northeast. That makes all sorts of sense. But it's not going to go away. I think from their camp, they're saying you're not well known enough in the States. You don't care. You want to do your thing in the Northeast. But it's got to happen, hasn't it? When do you see it happening?
I think it'll happen back end of this year. Obviously, she's got stuff going on now with the mixed martial arts, MMA, and I want to get out again. So I think it'll be probably November, December time.
That's perfect, Savannah. So she fights June the 10th in the MMA game. So you'd look to get out summer and possibly again. I know Peter's always keen to keep you busy. Twice before, and then the big one, hopefully November. I mean, they're all big ones, but the biggest one in the women's game for sure, November, December. All goes to plan.
Yeah, definitely. I'd like to go up a weight. I'd like to go back up to super middle. There's 2 tough champions. I've got 2 belts each, so I'd like to have a crack at one of them. And then I'd be 2-weight world champion, and then my stock goes up again, because you only get, yourself, you only get one chance, and I want to be in the best possible position I can be for when that chance comes.
Just a word about the MMA diversion. Clarissa's, I think she's just trying to take every opportunity that's coming her way. She's on a mission in her own world to become the greatest everything, I think. But what do you make of the MMA route and that whole thing? I suppose there's always that little risk when you do something like that, like when Tyson Fury went into the WWE or whatever it is. There's a risk that it might derail the best laid plans.
To be honest, I don't blame her, because you look at the response the women get in the UFC and even Cage Warriors and other platforms. It's tenfold to what the female boxing is, isn't it? So I don't blame her for going down that route. But we just have to wait and see if it pays off or not.
Well, great to hear from Savannah there, but we are going to switch attentions now to this weekend, and it's nearly upon us, and what a fight we have in prospect. Liam Williams, who's taking on Demetrius Boo Boo Andrade. Again, it's a world title fight, and Liam Williams surely has to be right up there as one of the world's most improved fighters. Since hooking up with Dominic Ingle, you would say, and the Ingle gym?
I think since going to the Ingle gym, he's improved dramatically. And listen, him and Gary Lockett had a great relationship, and now he brought him on. So, let's not forget him. But what he's doing there at the Ingles, and I think a big part of it is, I think Dom's looked at him and thought, no, you need to go up a weight. And he's a different animal at middleweight. And I can't wait for this weekend. Speaking to him just before he went out there, just how excited he was for it. He was chomping at the bit. And he's fighting a fighter here. Let's not forget, he's a pretty big underdog on Saturday night. Andrade, very, very seasoned, Olympian, yet to taste defeat. People believe there's a reason why your Canelos and some of the other big names don't want to be in with him. I've been lucky enough to see him close up. Actually seen him in the bubble in Texas, a big, big lad for a middleweight. I never know how he used to make light middleweight. It's a real, for me, like I said for a bit, I believe Liam could be the next British world champion. He's got a tough ask on his hands Saturday night.
Now, he's come, as you say, from light middle, where he had the only defeats of his career, both to Liam Smith.
Yeah.
There's a bit of controversy about them as
the
well.
First one,
I'll tell you what, one thing that struck me anyway was the build-up to both fights, because the two chippy characters, Liam Smith, who's got plenty to say, and Liam Williams, again, likewise. So they were good battles. But as you say, the step up, and I think, the Mark Heffron fight and some of the stand-up performances, he just looks so comfortable at that weight now. Yeah,
he's just big, strong, at the weight. He'll have more in his tank, down the straight as well. He's going to need that, you'd feel, with Andrade. But he's, I just think it's freshened him up there. And we've seen recently, and he's dying for this big step up. It's been very comfortable lately for him. And I think he's at a gym there where the slickness, the skills of Demetrius Andrade, he's at a gym there where he's going to get plenty of that type sparring. They've seen that before, and I think that could be a major factor in it.
Yeah, you're right though to big up Gary Lockett and the job he did though.
Of course,
that should never be forgotten, because he's put so much work into him, didn't
absolutely. I remember Liam Williams coming to the gym with Vince Clever, the father of Nathan, early on, and the job Gary's done, and then Dom's continued that. And physically, he's in a great place, and Mr. Angry, as they call him, but listen, I've always found him great.
Well, he's got a fantastic opportunity, and Liam is extremely confident. Our friends at Boxing Social caught up with him.
I fully believe I'm going to flatten him. It's going to be a tricky fight while it lasts. He's got all the moves. He's got the slickness and the ability. He comes out flying for 4, 5, sometimes 6 rounds. And if he can't hurt you or get you out of there, he usually starts to run out of ideas. And that's where he takes his beating. I'm going to flatten him.
What a line. What a line. Just how confident he says it while
that's
it lasts.
What you want to hear, isn't it? That's fantastic. Yeah. He's going in as a massive underdog, but he means every word he said there.
He's chomping at the bit, and Andrade on social media, he's played it out don't really know who Liam Williams is, but he knows.
He will do.
He'll certainly know after Saturday night or Thursday, Friday press away and stuff, for sure. I'm looking forward to, and listen, the pressure with Andrade as well is, not his pressure, but even his own expectations. He's asking for these big fights, the Canelo fights, the Golovkin, these huge fights. If he slips up on Saturday night, they've gone. So it's also pressure on him there to perform. I think it's a great fight.
Prediction?
I'm going with the underdog. I wouldn't want to see him. I wouldn't want to see it otherwise, a little bit out of fear. But no, I've said it for a bit. I think Liam likes a different animal at middleweight. Looking great under Domingo and all the old Ingle team. I just believe he'll find a way. Whether it's going to be late or whether it's going to be on points, we'll see. But I think he's going to find a way. I really do. He's even a tough guy. He might have to overcome something early. You said there, tricky while it lasts. But I think he'll take over in the second half of the fight.
There's another huge fight this weekend, and I know this is the main one for you. This is the one that's really got you going.
It is.
The one that you're excited about. It is Jake Paul against Ben Askren.
There
so
it is.
Over to you, Anthony.
Jake Paul, the problem child.
Yeah.
Against Ben Askren. Do you know what, Ben Askren, all joking aside, very, very good MMA fighter. But the reason why he's been picked is his stand-up isn't the best, wrestler. He had a great MMA career. He only lost twice out of 21 fights, which in the MMA is brilliant. But he's remembered for being involved in, I think, the quickest loss in UFC history with Masvidal. But I think the build-up's been brilliant. The social media, I mean, painful at times, but the social media, the Rocky 4 comparisons have been brilliant from Askren. That alone, I think he deserves to win the fight. But listen, with Joe, it's hard to say, with Jake Paul, he's fought two people, one being a YouTuber and one being a basketballer. A little bit scary, really. Like, those lads should not have been in the ring.
Yeah.
Certainly not in a professional level. But I do believe he's learning how to box, and I think he's going to start a favourite, and I'm sure it's over 8 rounds as well. So it'd be interesting. What I've seen of Ben Askren as a boxer, unless he's bluffing us all, I think which a lot of people are hoping, I think it's hard to look past the problem child making it 3-0, all wins, no losses. What's that?
A bit of clinching maybe going on.
I think he's got to really try and rough Jake Paul up for sure. For sure he has got to, but it's very different sports, isn't it? Very different sports, and I think he's been picked for that reason. Stand-up game isn't the strongest, but I think there's a lot of people who'd be pleasantly surprised if he proves people wrong. I think, listen, we've seen it with Jake Paul. I say it all the time. Very, very smart businessman. Very smart. Some things a bit distasteful, and they'll continue. But I say it all the time, if these cards keep coming out and the boxers can get out, it gets more boxers work, more eyes on the sport, then it's not as bad as what a lot of people say.
So who wins that one?
I'm going to go for the problem child, Jake Paul, to go 3-0. One of the future pay-per-view stars as well. He is now, isn't there? He is now. What about future pay-per-view star? He is now.
In all seriousness, though, the point you make is a good one. If it can get fighters work, then
I
suppose
suppose
people are going to have to live with it.
I think he's been picked for a reason, and he's looked decent in his fights, but the opposition has been very, very questionable whether they should have been anywhere near a ring. I think the smart money would be on Jake Paul.
Well, there is a card coming up very soon that there's no debate is a card to look forward to.
Yeah.
It involves a couple of people as well, because obviously Natasha Jonas, we're going to hear a little bit from her later on. She's in action against the superstar that is Katie Taylor. There's Derek Chisora, obviously, against Joseph Parker, but a little bit further down the bill, just as intriguing, is Chris Eubank Jr. against Marcus Morrison, who you've known since he was a child.
Yeah.
A big opportunity for Marcus.
Massive opportunity, and listen, again, he's a huge underdog. One thing about Marcus, he can really punch. I know Chris Eubank Jr. has got a great chin on him. He's proved that time and time again, but he's got absolutely nothing to lose going in there, and he's got great belief about him. He's sparring very well. He's looking great in the gym, and he's sort of got the attitude of he's got the shots to land it against Eubank Jr. and he lands, and big puncher, you've got to give him a chance. Listen, I'm not gonna lie, I'll be in the corner that night. He's a huge underdog, but it will be interesting. It will be interesting to see what happens when he does, because I do believe he'll have success. I really do, and what a story it'd be as well.
Well, I went to see Marcus, caught up with him, had a chat with him, and some interesting stuff came out of it. And the two, Marcus Morrison and Chris Eubank Jr., have met before. This is what Marcus had to say.
Have you met Eubank? I have met Eubank before, yeah. He might not even remember this. I would have been probably around 13. It was my 30th birthday, actually. And we was being trained. I think he was doing some sort of training with Floyd Senior, and I was with a trainer then, just who was working with Floyd Senior.
This is Lee Beard.
That's Lee Beard, yeah.
So if I remember rightly, Ricky Hatton was getting ready to fight Pacquiao, and Floyd Senior was training him with Lee Beard at the Village Hotel in Ashton. That's right. God, that's going back a while now, isn't it?
Yeah, that must have been like, I'm 28 now, so, and they was both working, they were doing something, I don't know if it was when Hatton was working with a pair of them, I believe it was, and Eubank was with training, doing bits with Floyd, and obviously I was with Lee, so there'd be often days that would be together, and he was obviously a couple of years older than me, and it was my birthday, and my dad, on my birthday, he got a group of all my schoolmates together, and we all sort of bunked the day off school, to be honest, and he booked paintballing and invited Chris along, and Chris must have been about 15 at the time, and yeah, he came along. Went for a Chinese afterwards at a restaurant. So yeah, that's as far as it goes in terms of knowing him. He wasn't much, like I said, he might not even remember this, but yeah, that was a time obviously a few years ago, and you look now a few years later, we both getting in the ring together, and obviously we both come a long way in our careers, and I just think it's going to be an exciting fight.
Well, there you are, paintballing with Eubank. So I don't know what Chris is going to have to say about that, but Marcus remembers that, and it's interesting the way that these things work, isn't it? But going back all those years to when Ricky Hatton was still in his pomp, and Marcus was in and around the game. Floyd Senior being over here. Do you remember all
circle.
That?
Yeah, of course I do, and I remember that, and I remember Senior coming to the Junior. Well, he come with Senior to the gym, and then Liam Smith was doing a lot of sparring, some great rounds, and Marcus was just starting off then. So I remember then, like, Junior doesn't say too much, but they're talking a little bit, so there must be some collection of meeting before.
Yeah.
But no, it's interesting. Like Marcus, very talented athlete. I'd say it now. I'm not a great judge, but he'd be one of the best players I've played with football wise. I think he had a growth. I think if his growth spurt would have come 6 months earlier, there's a great chance we would have seen him playing at a very high level.
Well, he was on Manchester City's books, of
He
course.
was playing against
his kind of age group. He was playing against Paul Pogba,
Ravel Morrison,
Jesse Lingard.
Lingard, who he told me was the main of his life. He says that he used to hate it, because I wanted to talk about them, but he said no, for me it was Jesse Lingard. He used to terrorise me. He did. But
what he's doing now. Look what Jesse's doing now.
There we go.
But of course, on that bill, May the 1st, which is a huge stacked Matchroom pay-per-view card, Joseph Parker against Derek Chisora, or the other way around. Katie Taylor against Natasha Jonas, and you could argue that that's the most intriguing of the fights. We've just spoken about Eubank Jr. against Marcus Morrison, but of course Natasha, who has this massive opportunity against the global superstar, the Canelo of the women's game, if you like, Katie Taylor. They've met before in the Olympics. And we've got a feature, we put together a feature of this one. So here's a little taster of what's to come with Natasha Jonas, Outside the Ropes.
My name's Natasha Jonas. This is episode 3, Outside the Ropes, coming soon from the Sportsman.
So they are Outside the Ropes. Spent a bit of time with Natasha, which it's a really interesting story. Well, you know about Anthony, but in terms of how she's had to prepare, the pandemic, how that's affected her. She's a single mum. It's really interesting. We spent the day with her. So again, that's coming out, Betfred and the Sportsman. So again,
look forward to it.
It's really interesting. She's got some challenge on her hands as well with against Katie. I mean, so
she has. I thought you was going to say as a mum. I was going to say a little lively one, but she's a great character. So I think in the ring with Katie, I think she might see that as a bit of respite. But no, it's a huge one. She's an unbelievable fighter, Katie. What Katie's done for the women's game, you can only respect massively. A great girl as well. But it's a fight, and Tasha's mentioned it time and time again. She believes a lot of fighters have lost before they get in there with Katie, and that certainly won't be the case with Tasha. I can't wait for it.
Yeah, in Manchester as well. So I look forward to that May the 1st and the whole stack card. But just finally then, I think a bit of news from your own little camp, if you like.
Yes.
You've got James Moorcroft, who you've been working with for a little while now, and I think he's going to be out towards the end of May against Anthony Tomlinson. Is this correct?
That's the one, yes. 21st of May, the phone call come in, and James got offered the fight, and it shows you he stayed in the gym throughout. He's improved massively, and I'm really excited for it. Tomlinson, he'll go in there, he'll be the title holder. He'll start favourite, but we can't wait for it. I think it's a great fight. 2 young fighters. James was undefeated until last time out, but putting it on the line, and I think it can't be anything but a great fight, a good domestic fight. The winner then will move on. Obviously, the loser can come back, but we can't wait. And he's one of them. He's a very sort of obsessive character. Forever studying him, and we're working on things in the gym, and he's coming on along, and we can't wait for it.
it's been that kind of week. Good news on that front in terms of, you know, shows like that are coming back. You've opened your gym doors to the kids now. The kids have been coming in and training again. The pubs are open outside. You've had another haircut. Come on, life is good, Anthony.
It's been a while, I'm actually growing it, you know, Dan.
Yeah, you're growing it?
Yep, I'm going for the old Italian male look, and I think it's, classic Italian male, and looking forward to the journey.
Excellent. Well, you just express yourself, Anthony.
Yeah, I have. So it's, but yeah, no, good. Everything's getting back to now. The most important thing for us was getting the kids back in the gym. Back there again in a bit with them. They love it because obviously it was a new gym and they didn't get to use it. So that's good. Welcoming new
Have they roughed it
journey
up a bit?
the
It's a bit
estate.
too clean and pretty, to be honest.
Mate,
because
don't worry,
the doors have been shut. I hope they've roughed it up a bit. And anything on the floor, nothing.
I've told them a few times, I've banned plastic bottles from the gym, I've put a few rules down, and they've got to keep it clean.
Excellent. Right, well, we look forward to all the action, and particularly, I think, Liam Williams. Anthony's looking forward to Jake Paul more than that one, I'm sure. But Liam Williams against Demetrius Andrade, what a chance he's got over in the States. So, well, we look forward to catching up with those characters next week. But this is the Betfred Boxing Show.